What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another competitive guide. Today we're taking a look at a Pokemon called Kartana. I'm not sure if this is actually entirely accurate to say a Pokemon called Kartana because this creature is an Ultra Beast, and actually it's the first Ultra Beast that we're looking at since starting the series. So, if you're just joining us now, my name is Wolfe Glick. I'm the 2016 Pokemon World Champion, and I just got a haircut. And it's really cold. I'm in my basement, guys, and it's really cold down here, and I'm wearing a scarf because I'm cold, not because I can only use one move in exchange for raising my speed. Anyway, lame jokes aside, let's take a look at Kartana. It's basically a piece of paper, in more ways than one. Its ability Beast Boost gives it a tied stat increase when it knocks out a Pokemon, which is very interesting. Drawn Sword Pokemon is its classification. Let's take a look at its stats. It's actually like very, very fast. Only really undersped, or being outsped by Pokemon like Aerodactyl, Tapu Koko, things that are like a little bit faster, and Random Choice Scarf Pokemon. High base defense, but it's kind of brought down by its low base HP and a sky-high attack stat, an enormous attack stat, kind of compensated by its low special defense stat. So overall, this is another Pokemon similar to Tapu Koko, who I already covered, which feels a bit like a glass cannon. And before you lose your mind over how strong you think this is, first of all, it's a Grass Steel, which isn't the greatest typing, but more importantly, it has very limited moves. Sacred Sword is an option. It gets Leaf Blade, it gets Night Slash, X Scizor, Psycho Cut, Guillotine if you really feel lucky, and then Smart Strike is like another big one. But for the most part, I wouldn't say it's too imbalanced. I accidentally closed the window, guys, so you're gonna get spoilers for seeing what's ahead. But I'll explain everything later. First set is probably like fairly straightforward. Focus Sash as the item. Beast Boost is not mandatory, and the moves is Protect, Leaf Blade, Smart Strike, and Sacred Sword. I think these three moves are gonna be standard in any set that's not Choice or Assault Vest. And I personally prefer Sacred Sword as the fourth. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the sets. Let's take a look at the calcs actually. So Leaf Blade without an item, without a boosting nature. Leaf Blade, which isn't that strong of a move, has a guaranteed KO on my low tick with max HP and 68 defense with a boosting nature. So that's like pretty, in my opinion, pretty impressive because my Milotic is not a frail Pokemon by any means, especially with these EVs. So that just kind of gives you, I feel like with Kartana, if it can hit something for super effective damage, it's going to do a lot, but if it can't, it's probably getting KO'd. And that's kind of the way that I'm generally thinking about this Pokemon when I think about it. Next up, I wanted to see, okay, first of all, like, as you can see, Psychic is resisted. This thing is, in fact, Steel-type, but nonetheless, Psychic is resisted, so this is kind of a risky business here, where Smart Strike is always going to KO up to, I think, 60 defense, maybe? Yeah, you can go a little bit higher. Yeah, 60, so as long as they have less than 72 EVs, sorry, 68 EVs, I should say. Smart Strike is always going to KO, but in return, that Tapu Lele Psychic without a boosting item, with boosting nature, of course, but I'm not even sure you need it, honestly. Let's just see Timid. Yeah. Yeah, even without a boosting nature, that thing is doing a lot of damage. So again, guys, I don't necessarily want to tell you guys like these are like, I don't want to make every Pokemon sound like the best thing since sliced bread. I just want you guys to know that, yeah, Kartana I think is actually pretty good, but it does have a lot of kind of big flaws, and one of them is it's just absolutely terrible special defense and HP stats, which contribute to it being very frail. And lastly, I wanted to make sure Tapu Koko Thunderbolt did not KO, because its defense is like relatively high, but its special defense is not, so even with timid nature, Thunderbolt is not going to be picking up the KO, so that is pretty good in Kartana's favor. So that's just your standard set with Focus Sash. I did give it the Focus Sash because it's really frail, so you want it to stick around. And just like, as you can see, you don't really need, like, this doesn't even have any super effective attacks, but Leaf Blade Leaf Blade really, is going to be doing a lot of damage to Tapu Koko, assuming they're timid and not running a minus defense nature. So yeah, as you can see, it hits pretty hard. Next up, we have this Choice Band set. When you're thinking about a Pokemon like Kartana, it hits very, very, very hard, as I already mentioned, and the thing is that it can tend to snowball out of control, similarly how the Pokemon VGC format works why am I in there? This time. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I should zoom in. Sorry about that. Anyways, Beast Boost, whenever it knocks out a Pokemon, gives it a +1 boost, which then makes it easier to knock out other Pokemon. And because Kartana's highest stat is attack, that +1 boost is going into the attack stat, which is a very scary idea for me personally. To think about. So basically, you take a KO, and even though you are locked into a move, like, that move is a lot stronger. Like, it's 2.25 with Choice Band and then +1 its original base power. So just taking a look at some calcs, I was kind of curious. So first of all, Smart Strike versus Tapu Bulu, you're not going to do this without a Choice Band. If you just give this, like, I don't know, Chovelberry, you're not KOing Tapu Bulu, but with a Choice Band, you are suddenly OHKOing Tapu Bulu, and if they're counting on surviving and hitting you with some random attack, Tapu Bulu specifically probably doesn't really care, like, because it can't really do much back, but it could superpower you, and that's going to do a lot of damage, especially if they're, like, Expert Belt or something, or, you never know what they're going to do, so getting rid of them could be very good. But anyway, Smart Strike always KOs with Choice Band, which is really convincing. Next up, we have -1 Leaf Blade versus Crocodile. And as you can see, that always KOs. And that's kind of what you'd expect, right? Because, like, it's super effective, but you don't always do this without the Choice Band. If you do, like, again, Choppleberry, 50% chance to OHKO. And that's even with 4 HP. So it doesn't change. It just changes the roll. So, yeah, the fact that you can, like, always count on KOing Crocodile even through -1 is pretty good. Do I have one more calc here? Gyarados. So, if you bring Kartana in on Gyarados, you can now OHKO with Leaf Blade. Yes. So that's that. Next up, we have this Assault Vest set, which is pretty clever, in my opinion. Basically, same moveset. Night Slash could also be X Scissor if you want. You could also, I guess, get rid of Sacred Sword or Night Slash. These moves aren't that important. And the idea here is just to kind of complement his really terrible special defense. These EVs guys are all pretty straightforward just because it's hard to calc without knowing what speed set you want because the metagame's not super developed at the moment. But once the metagame becomes more developed, you can choose like a slower speed set if you want. These are just kind of early metagame stuff. So you could invest more in special attack or special defense. You could take some amount of attack as well if you were interested in that kind of thing. But for now, we're just using max speed, max attack. These EVs, obviously, this is just kind of give you a baseline. So the Tapu Lele Psychic I showed you earlier always KO'd Kartana, but that's no longer the case. Same with Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam doesn't do anything versus 4 HP, 0 special defense Kartana. It's probably better to do that anyways. Sorry guys, you should probably do that. Yeah. So that's pretty much that. As you can see, basically, you're still KOing in return, so it's taking advantage of Kartana's already high attack stat and trying to supplement its low defense or special defense stat. Again, I want to show you guys this is kind of like a fun calc. I don't expect to see many Tapu Koko with Thunderbolt and no special attack investment, so I don't think that's going to be very common. But nonetheless, it's cool to know that like if they're first like you have a chance if they're not invested to be living to 2 Thunderbolts, which is really interesting. And good because Tapu Koko is one of the Pokemon that outspeeds Kartana. So that's kind of just like random calcs for the Assault Vest thing. Of course, you can calc your own thing. Feel free to mess around with the spread. Feel free to mess around with the moves. Yeah. But moving on to the last thing. So basically, what do we notice about this Kartana? So I like Magikarp better. Some partners that I personally recommend for Kartana would be Clefable is my first one. Basically, the idea here is that Kartana is such a glass cannon, so if you're able to protect it, you're in a good shape. So that's why I have Clefable here, because it's one of the few Pokemon in the decks that has access to Follow Me and isn't really, really bad. You could also try Fake Out Pokemon, but I didn't add Fake Out Pokemon here because the Psychic Terrain is currently pretty big, and like just like the fact that Psychic Terrain prevents Fake Out could basically lead to you getting kind of baited into some situations. So that's why I personally feel like Follow Me is safer. You have to watch out for spread moves, of course, but if you're able to protect Kartana and just let it attack for a few turns, especially if it gets a KO, that could be very big. You could also Follow Me yourself and then Smart Strike yourself and get the Beast Boost, but I don't personally recommend that. Same idea here with Smeargle, Follow Me. It's just like another Follow Me user. I don't really like Smeargle at all this format. I think it's actually pretty bad. I think if anyone's using Smeargle, it's just because they're like tunnel visioned by like they're kind of like locked into last year where Smeargle was really good, but they don't realize that like there's a lot of things last year that made Smeargle good that aren't good this year. So I don't personally actually recommend Smeargle, but I think if you want like to go this heavy setup route, you could use like Follow Me, Helping Hand, and like you could actually use Transform. Actually, maybe I recommend Scarf Smeargle with Kartana, because that way you can get protected and then Transform and then Explore. If you're Choice Scarf, you shouldn't be. Hey, Choice Scarf. If you're Choice Scarf, you shouldn't be using Helping Hand. But the other moves are all right. And yeah, this is just kind of like to help Kartana like use attacks, like get free turns to attack. And last up, so I was thinking about something that was like less Kartana dependent and more just overall team synergy. And I actually really recommend Alolan Marowak here for the reason that Marowak is weak to ground and water types, both of which Kartana's strongest stab move, Leaf Blade, hits very, very, very hard. Like, very hard. And in return, Kartana is weak to fire types, whose Marowak's Bone Meringue hits. Kartana has Sacred Sword for the dark types that are super effective on Marowak, and if you're running one of these two sets, you do get Night Slash for the ghost types that are super effective on Marowak. So, rock types as well are weak to grass, and Leaf Blade is really strong. Actually, rock types are weak to grass, rock, and steel type moves, so they can't even safely switch in. Yeah, and so overall, I think these two have actually really good synergy. If you're curious about this Marowak set, I've actually done a video covering Alolan Marowak and this set and my thoughts on it, and like various sets and various EV spreads and all the stuff that you can check out. I will link it in the description down below if you're interested. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you like this content or if you like my haircut. Other than that, I will be doing more guides. I'm not sure if I want to do all the Ultra Beasts yet or just some of them, but I'm definitely gonna start looking into them. I definitely want to cover Zergtree and Celesteela. Those are like some of my, I'm like high on my priority list. So I will be doing those for sure. I'm not sure if I want to cover the other ones, but Please leave me your feedback in the comments down below. I also would appreciate any suggestions, so feel free to comment the Pokemon you want me to do next, or feedback on the series overall as a whole. Other than that, guys, I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.